Around the 6-minute mark, they jump into discussing the problems with using epidemiology to make conclusions about nutrition.
Epidemiology, observational studies, are studies that look at a certain group of people. Say we take a group and we look and see how much saturated fat are they eating, and we separate them into, low consumption, medium consumption, high consumption. We might then look 20 years later and see how many people had heart attacks and died.
The criticisms they mentioned were that epidemiology assumes that there's one diet for everyone. It reduces everything down to components without looking at the whole picture. For example, if a study is looking at the effects of high-fat diets, it wouldn't differentiate between a high-fat Domino's pizza and Snickers bar diet and a carefully formed Whole Foods diet that is packed with coconut oil and avocados. Dr. Khan does say that epidemiology studies are at least useful for testing hypotheses.
You can test a hypothesis of what happens if our data may be crappy, but it's still data, and it allows you to go further with 100,000 people, 50,000 people, 500,000 people.
Kresser then goes on to explain 3 more problems with epidemiology.
I think there's huge problems with epidemiology. So
the data are only as good as the tool used to collect them. The tool very commonly used for epidemiology studies is a questionnaire, which is not reliable simply because people are not good at precisely remembering what they ate. An example of this problem is a recent study on low-carb diets, which relied on a questionnaire like this one, asking participants things like, how many of these foods did you eat per month over the past year? My hat is off to you if you can remember your precise monthly consumption of bananas, broccoli, and chicken for all of last year. The second point is the healthy user bias, which says that people who are likely to do a vegetarian diet, which is thought to be healthy, are also likely to do several other things that are thought to be healthy, like not smoke or get plenty of exercise.
Well, red meat has been perceived as unhealthy for a long time. In those observational studies, the people who eat more red meat are also smoking more, they're eating fewer fruits and vegetables, they have higher body mass index, they're less physically active. So how do you know that it's the red meat that's causing the problem and not those other things? You don't.
The third point is that the relative risks in nutrition derived from epidemiology research are so low that they're indistinguishable from chance.
So in fields outside of nutrition and epidemiology, nobody would consider an increase in risk less than 100%, a doubling, to be really worth paying attention to. The observational studies that Joel was referring to that confirmed that cigarette smoking led to lung cancer, that showed between a 1,000 and 3,000% increase in lung cancer in smokers. Okay? The IARC, the WHO report that suggested that processed red meat was a carcinogen, that was 18% increase.
A lot of respect and agreement, but if we throw epidemiology out, we are left with basic biochemistry.
I'm not suggesting that, by the way.
I know. If we throw epidemiology away, we've thrown away about 80% of nutrition knowledge, because that is the most common kind of study. And that still leaves us with basic science. It leaves us with randomized clinical trials, which are very hard in nutrition, and they're very expensive. And it finally leaves us with studying old, healthy people, centenarian studies.